Self-help, top technical support solutions, eKey and SuperWeb. A variety of features and issues related to SuperWeb and the Super eKey app. First, we're going to cover SuperWeb logins, starting with creating a login, linking a key to the login, potential errors and how to avoid them, and forgetting logins and passwords. Then we'll go into SuperWeb and go to the settings section and go over login settings, general and scheduled email settings, and showing time frame for eKeys. Then we'll go to the Super eKey app and discuss how to get an authorization code from the app, keybox troubleshooting, and updating the eKey app. SuperWeb logins. First of all, getting to SuperWeb, you can open up an internet browser, and at the top on the address bar, type in www.supraekey.com and press enter on the keyboard. Then when that page comes up, click on the SuperWeb button on the right-hand side, or type in superweb.suprakim.com and press enter on the keyboard. Once you're at the login screen, if you haven't already, add this page to your favorites or bookmarks to avoid needing to navigate here again in the future. Enter in your user ID and password and click on Login. There is an option for Remember User ID. This option is useful if you're using a computer that no one else that would log into SuperWeb uses. If you, however, are using, say, an office computer or a computer you share with a spouse who's also an agent, then you might not want to remember user ID, because if the other person goes to log in, doesn't notice that their ID is not there and it's somebody else's, puts in the password, they may lock your account out on accident. If you've never logged into SuperWeb before, you need to create a login and link your key to it. Click on Register at the bottom left. Once you create a login, you'll be prompted to log in for the first time, and then you'll be asked to link your key to the login. To create a login, the first thing you're going to be asked for is your first name and last name, then your email address, which you put in twice. That makes sure that it's correct. Then you'll choose a user ID. This is what you'll sign in with. It needs to be a minimum of 3 characters and a maximum of 11 characters. No special characters except for @ period, dash, and underscore. And special characters are not allowed as the first or last character. Once you've chosen a user ID, click on the check button on the right-hand side. This checks to see if that user ID is available or not. And if it says user ID already exists, you'll need to choose a new one. If it says user ID is available, then go ahead and continue. Next, you'll want to select a password. Passwords are case sensitive, must be between 8 and 15 characters long, must start with a letter, and contain at least 1 number. No special characters except for @ period, dash, and underscore. As the password is entered into the system, it'll rate its complexity and level of security. It'll start off gray. Once it goes to green, you've met the requirements for the password. Next, you're going to choose 2 questions. These are challenge questions that it will ask you if you need to reset your password. Provide answers to those, which you will then need to provide when you attempt to reset your password, after which it allows you to reset your password. What I recommend is that you choose single word answers if at all possible, and keep them lowercase because they are cap sensitive. You would have to enter them in exactly as you entered them in the first time, so it's easiest if you just stick with lowercase answers. That way you don't have to remember that portion of it. The last part is entering the letters and or numbers that show on the image. This is the I'm not a robot area. Go ahead and fill that in. Then I would recommend you look over the information you've got filled in, make sure it's what you want, and then click on Submit. You'll see a pop-up that's going to remind you that your password's a confidential code and that you're responsible for keeping it that way. Click on OK to proceed. Once that goes away, you should see a message on the screen that says you've successfully registered an account. You will receive an email confirmation shortly. Just so you know, the email is just a confirmation. You don't have to go there and click on a link or do anything with that. Just go and click on the continue link below that other message. The next part that'll happen is it's going to ask you for your key serial number, your 4-digit PIN code, and the board, association, or MLS that issued your key. Once those 3 pieces of information are entered in, you would click on Login. One recommendation for the association or MLS is, since they're listed by state or province, it's the 2-letter designation. If you click on the pull down and then press the first letter of your state or province, it's going to take you down to that list and get you to the selection you need to make faster. Typically speaking, if you have to do this again, your computer will remember it, so you won't have to reselect it. Once you make sure this information is all correct, then go ahead and click on Login. If for some reason one of the 3 bits of information is not correct, it will tell you the key is not found. This means that the key number, the PIN code, or the association board or MLS selection are not correct. It can be any one of them. It's easy to assume that it's the key number and try to figure out why it's not working, but it requires all 3 pieces of information to find the key successfully. So just verify all 3 pieces of information and then try logging in again. If you forget your user ID, on the login screen, there's a link right under user ID. You can click on Forgot User ID. It will ask you for your email address, and then click on Submit, and that will send you an email. The email will have any user IDs that you have attached to that username, and if that includes if you've created multiple logins in the past, you will see all of those listed and can choose which one you want to use. Forgot password. Underneath the password is a Forgot Password link. When you click on that, you're going to be prompted for your user ID, and then click on Submit. Next, you're going to be prompted for the answers to your challenge questions. Once you fill those in, again, make sure that you fill it in correctly, including capitalization. And then you can choose a new password. The new password meets the same requirements it did when creating your initial login. Once you've put in your password twice, then click on Submit. And just like when creating your login, it's going to remind you that your password's confidential. Go ahead and click OK. At that point, it's going to tell you your password is successfully reset and is for your use only. It will tell you an email will be sent shortly confirming your password has been changed. Again, you don't need to go to that email and do anything with it. It's just for your notification. Click on Continue to log in so you can log into SuperWeb with your new password. Once you're logged in, you will have access to all sections of SuperWeb. The one we're going to take a look at now is Settings. So this is where you set up email and text alerts and update your login information once you've created it. The first section you're going to see is going to have your name, your email address, the board, association, or MLS that your key is issued through, a link for the login settings. You'll see your key serial number and the type of key that you have. That will include the service level if you have eKey. General email settings. So this is where you select to receive feedback reminders, showing notifications on an individual level. You can set up an email signature. Scheduled email settings is where you would set up a weekly or a monthly email report. And eKey showings is where you select the 1 to 7 day period that the showings and showing summary in the eKey app use. Login settings. So if you click on the login settings link, the first thing it'll ask you for if you're going to change anything is to put in your current password. Then you can update your name. You can update the email address linked to the login. That is super important for resetting your password, because if we have to do it, if there's some problem with the password reset on the website, then it's going to require the updated email address for us to send a link to. The password itself, if you want to change it, you check on the update password checkbox and then put in the new password that you want. and put it in again to confirm it. And then you can change your challenge questions and your answers if you want. Any changes that you've made, once you're done, you can click on Submit. General email settings. So the first option here is showing notifications, and this is individual showing notifications for each time somebody accesses one of your key boxes. In the box there in the middle, you can add additional email addresses or email to text addresses. An email to text address is specifically the phone number of the phone it's going to, at and a specific address based on the carrier of the phone. So like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, etc., they all have their own addresses. If you're not sure what that would be and you want the notification sent as a text to your phone or to somebody else's phone, then you can do a search on Google or whatever search provider you like for email to text and the name of the carrier, and it will come right up. Feedback emails. So this sends an email when somebody sends feedback on one of your listings to let you know that they have given you feedback, so you can click on that and view that feedback right away. Under reminder emails, there are two of them. The first is a feedback reminder to remind you to leave feedback on listings that you've shown. So for showing agents, it will give you a reminder with a link you can click on to provide feedback on that listing and submit it. You can just delete the email and continue if you don't wish to. Listing assignment is a reminder for those who have released a shackle to assign or remove a listing from a key box that was recently had the shackle released on it. In the case of active key users, this won't be an option. Active keys, when they release the shackle, give you that choice on the key as part of the release shackle process. Listing update emails. So if this is checked, that means that you opt in to receive emails from listing agents to get updates on listings that you've shown in the past. Scrolling down below that, the last portion of this screen allows you to set up information to put at the top of reports. So that can include a picture and your contact or business card information. So you fill in the information here, format it the way you want to. It uses the same basic controls that you would see in a word processing program, something like that. At the bottom, there's a link for a signature user guide if you want specific instructions and information regarding it. And you can browse to a picture on your computer and upload that to the system to go next to the contact information. Once you've got the changes you want, go ahead and click on Save. It's an example of how you may see it on that page once you've submitted it. And then when you run reports, this is an example of what it may look like on the right-hand side at the top of your reports. Scheduled email settings. So again, with a scheduled email, it's going to have your email address on file at the top. And for a once-a-week report, you will choose a day of the week that you want it to generate on, and then check whether you want to include feedback or not. With a once-a-month report, you're going to choose whether it'll be on the 1st, the 15th, or the last day of the month for the monthly report, and check whether you want to include feedback or not. There's also a CC box for additional email addresses to copy for both of these reports. So you can add any additional email addresses you want here. Email to text is not going to work for this because of the size of information that is being submitted to the address. And if you want to cancel either of the reports, just select None again to disable that report. Down below that is the personalized signature image and text, just like you saw in the general email settings. It is the same information. This is just a different place you can get to it. Last but not least, for eKey users, you can select the number of days that it shows showing activity for and provides a summary for on the app. It defaults to 7 days, but if there's too much information showing up there for you, you can drop that back to as little as 1 day. Once you've made your selection, click on Save. And for clarification, the summary is the first message you receive when you sync every day, and then the number of showings that show up on the yellow bar in the eKey application is the number of showings you've had in the last however many days you've selected there on SuperWeb. So once you've got that number selected, you click on Save, sync your key, and it will update the information. Getting an authorization code through the eKey app. Now there are 3 different options for you to get an authorization code straight out of the application. It really depends on what information you're providing the app to get that. First is email and PIN, second is phone number and PIN, and third is key serial number and PIN. We're going to cover all 3 of these methods, both how to do them and how you'll receive the authorization code. All of these will start with tapping on Activate eKey app. On the next screen, you can get an authorization code with your phone number and your 4-digit PIN code. You put in your phone number, then your 4-digit PIN code, and then click on Submit. For this to work, the phone number needs to be on your Super account as the contact number. The phone number needs to be for the phone you're using the eKey app on, and the PIN code must be your correct PIN code. You'll receive a text with a link. When you tap on the link, it will bring up the app and the authorization code will populate. Just like that. Using your email address is very similar. In this case, you're putting in your email address in the top box, then your 4-digit PIN code, and clicking on Submit. For this to work, the email address needs to be on your Super account. You need to be able to at least check the email address where you are. On your phone is better. And then the PIN code must be your correct PIN code. If you receive that email on your phone, on the right-hand side, highlighted there in the yellow, click on the Click Here link, and that will bring up the application and populate the authorization code. If you're viewing on a computer, you'll actually have to put the authorization code in on the screen. Using your key serial number. So there's the possibility that one of the previous methods won't work. If you get an error when trying to do it, such as the one that's on the right-hand side there, then you're going to use the mobile SuperWeb option. On the authorization code screen, down at the bottom, there's an Already Have an Authorization Code link. You tap on that if you've already got an authorization code or if you're going to use mobile SuperWeb with your key number to look it up. Also, in the error message that shows up at the top, if you have one, you can tap on the word SuperWeb there, and that will also take you to mobile SuperWeb. So there are a couple different places you can get that. Once you tap on that link, it's going to prompt you for your key serial number, then for your 4-digit PIN code, and then your board association or MLS. And here again, it's going to be listed by your 2-letter state or province designation. Once you fill those in, then click on Login. Once you're logged into mobile SuperWeb, the second link is going to be authorization code. Just tap on it. And an authorization code will be emailed to the email address on file. So just like with the second method, you're going to then check your email. If you're checking it on your phone, you can tap on the Click Here link on the right-hand side. If not, you'll need to manually enter the authorization code. So if the email address is not on your phone, what you want to do is at the bottom, tap on Already Have an Authorization Code, and then enter the authorization code manually. This counts if you call support or contact your organization to get an authorization code and they read it to you over the phone. You're going to tap on that Already Have an Authorization Code link and then put the authorization code in here. Once the authorization code is entered, you'll need to tap to accept the End User License Agreement, or EULA, and the privacy policy. After that, your key is going to sync, and then your key is ready to go. A couple of notes regarding authorization codes. First of all, the authorization codes for the current eKey app are a combination of letters and numbers that are 10 digits in length. The only numbers we use are 2 through 7, so we don't use 0 or 1, and we don't use 8 or 9. That way those can't be confused with the letters. So if you see something that looks like a 1, it's an I, and if you see something that looks like a 0, it's an O. All the letters are capitalized, and your keyboard will automatically be set to all caps when you're entering in an authorization code, so you won't confuse those either. Authorization codes also expire after 48 hours, so if you're provided an authorization code and don't use it to set up your app within the first 48 hours, then you'll need to contact them or Super Support to get a new one, or request it through the app. Through most organizations, you can get 2 authorization codes per week. That's a rolling 7-day period, not a calendar week. From some organizations may have different limits for that, but if you get a message that you are not allowed to get an authorization code, you'll need to contact your board association or MLS to get a new one. Accessing key boxes with your eKey. Bluetooth troubleshooting, direct to keybox. So when your phone is trying to communicate directly with keybox and you're having difficulties with it, there are a few things that you can do that are almost guaranteed to get it working. First, make sure Bluetooth is already on. If it's not, turn it on. If it's already on, we recommend you turn it off. Wait about 5 seconds and turn it back on. You will find the Bluetooth option to turn it on and off in your settings app for your phone. Make sure you're entering your correct PIN code or shackle code, depending on what you're doing. Then turn on the key box after the phone starts to search. The key box turns on for 15 seconds, waiting for something to communicate with it, and then turns back off again. Your phone will search for 5 minutes. So you have plenty of time to get to the box and to turn the box on to allow communication. But if you turn the key box on first, then open up your app, tap on Obtain Key, and put in your 4-digit PIN code, the key box may have already shut off or be in the process of shutting off at the time that the phone starts to try to communicate with it. So yeah, this also means that if you're in less than ideal weather conditions, stay in your car, open up the app, tap on Obtain Key, put in your 4-digit PIN code, then get out, go up to the box, push the key container on the box, let it communicate, and so you get the keys out and get into the property. If you're still not getting it to work at that point, the next thing to check, and this is something that happens sometimes, go into Bluetooth in your settings on your phone and see if anything there says connected. Usually that's going to be a headset or possibly a car stereo if your car is still on. Sometimes those will interfere with communication to the key box, so you may need to try turning them off and then trying it again. If you discover that that does allow it to work, then whichever device it is that you had to turn off, you'd want to make sure to turn that off before trying to communicate with key boxes in the future. Also, our phones are now computers, very much computers, and computers need to be restarted periodically. So if you're still having difficulties, the next bet would be to turn the phone off for about 10 seconds, turn it back on, and then try the operation again. Now, if you're using a fob, all of the previous steps are absolutely good things to try. In addition, there are a couple things to check. First is if your fob has got a red flashing light on it at any point, it's time to replace the batteries, and that's probably why it's not able to communicate anymore. Next is to make sure not to hold down the button. Just like with the key container, it is meant to be a button to activate the operation. It's not meant to be held. So don't hold up on the key container and don't hold down on the button on the fob. That actually prevents the fob from responding to your phone. So once the light starts to blink, let go of the button. And if the phone says point fob at keybox, that means that the phone and the fob have already communicated and they're ready to communicate with keybox. And at that point, you're looking at infrared. So, and these are the same troubleshooting steps we use for the display key, active key, and express key as well. Communication between the fob and the key box is through a form of light called infrared that we can't see. And unfortunately, it can be blocked by a number of different things. First would be stuff that's on the key box or something that's on the fob, pollen, dust, oil, dirt. You can use cloth or paper, such as a napkin, to wipe off the purple lens on the key box and the end of the fob furthest from the key ring, where the infrared is located, to wipe away pollen, dust, oil, and dirt. That way, you have a good, clean communication between the fob and the key box. If there's a red light flashing on the fob, replace the batteries. Shade the key box from direct sunlight. The sun is the brightest light bulb around. If it happens to be low enough in the sky and can be shining directly at the eye on the front of the key box simply can't see the fob. So by stepping in the way or holding a hand over it so that the eye on the key box is not being directly shined at by the sun, that should allow the fob to communicate. Make sure the end of the fob is held 3 to 6 inches away from the eye on the front of the key box, pointing at that eye. And make sure you don't push up on the key container until the phone says successful. For a Bluetooth or Bluetooth LE key box, if you are pushing up on the key container, that's activating the Bluetooth in the key box, which also turns off the infrared, which means the fob won't communicate with it. And if you haven't already, I would restart the phone. So is your eKey app up to date? Here's how you check. First of all, if you have your phone set up for automatic updates, you'll most likely be getting the latest version as soon as it comes out. It doesn't hurt to check if you've heard that people are getting updates for an app. To manually check whether or not you have automatic updates, if you have an iPhone or an iPad that has not received the iOS 13 update, then you would go to the App Store on the phone, tap on the Updates icon at the bottom. If you don't have an update icon, you have iOS 13, and we'll get there in a moment. On the update screen, it will first provide any pending updates if there are any, and if so, if eKey is there, just tap on Update next to it. If it shows up under Updated Recently or doesn't show up there at all, then you don't need to worry about it. If you've received the iOS 13 update, it's moved, and the update icon that you had seen prior is now replaced with an arcade button at the bottom. Up at the top on the right-hand side, you tap on your Apple ID icon, and then scroll down to incoming automatic updates. If you see pending updates and an update all option, if you have the time to, you can tap on update all, or you can just scroll down and tap on update for the eKey app. If it doesn't show up there, it may show up under the updated recently below that, or it may not show up at all if we haven't had a recent update, in which case you're fine and good to go. If you have an Android phone or tablet, you're going to open up the Play Store app on the phone. At the top left, you're going to tap on the 3-line icon for the menu, and then tap on My Apps and Games. Under Updates Pending, if you see Super eKey there, you're going to tap on Update on the right-hand side. If it shows up under Recently Updated or Not at All, then your eKey app is updated already. Once it is updated, then you're good to go. A couple new things you may see. Bluetooth prompt for iOS, iPhone, and iPad users. Something new you may see if you have an iPhone or iPad with iOS. When opening your eKey app for the first time after it is installed, it will say Super eKey would like to use Bluetooth. This will allow Super eKey to find and connect to Bluetooth accessories. This app may also use Bluetooth to know when you're nearby. You tap OK on that, and that will allow our app to communicate with keyboxes. If you tap on Don't Allow, then the eKey app is not going to be able to connect to a keybox. So if you've reflexively tapped on Don't Allow, then your eKey app is not going to be able to communicate with any Bluetooth devices, which includes the keyboxes. Don't Allow tells your phone that Super eKey does not need to use Bluetooth. To To resolve this, you'll need to go into your Settings app for your phone and then tap on Privacy, and then Bluetooth. And then you'll see any apps that request use of Bluetooth, and find Super E key and turn the switch on the right-hand side on to allow it. Then when you go back to the app, you should be able to access the key box just fine. For Android users, instead you will see a prompt regarding location services. This comes up after you've authorized your app and synced for the first time. You have the option to grant permissions or to refuse permissions. You do want to grant permissions to be able to open up key boxes. This is similar to the Bluetooth prompt on the iPhones. What this means is Google requires location services be on for any app that searches for and communicates directly with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi devices as part of the Android security functions. So this is not something like a Bluetooth speaker or whatever that any app can use as part of the sound. This specifically is for things such as fitness trackers, smartwatches, smart locks, lights, appliances, etc., anything controlled by a specific app on your phone. So you may already have it enabled and being used by something else. eKey would just be another one of those apps that would require that. The Super eKey app uses location services to determine the end of showing, verify a listing assignment during an open shackle, and provide location for eKey alert if you have that feature enabled. Location services is required for any communication with a key box to work because of the requirement by Google. When trying to obtain key, open shackle, or anything else that communicates with a key box, if you get location permissions declined, tap Grant Permissions to proceed. Then that same prompt that we saw earlier will come up, and you tap on Grant Permissions. It will then pop up with a prompt saying Allow Super eKey to access this device's location, and tap on Allow. If you see location services disabled, that means your location services on your phone is off, and you need to go into your settings on your phone, tap on Apps or Applications, scroll down to Super eKey, Permissions, and then turn location on. So with the information we provided today, I hope you are better prepared so that you can log in easier to SuperWeb, be better notified of activity on your listings and key, be able to get a new phone set up faster, resolve an issue with accessing a key box quickly and efficiently, and keep your eKey app updated and ready to go. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.